Hello friends, let's discuss current affairs. Today's first question relates to the winners of the Norway Chess Championship. This is one of the most prestigious chess tournaments in the world. It normally features the very best in the field, like Magnus Carlsen, the world number one, the current world champion Gukesh, Domraj Gukesh, and of course the other top guys like Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura, and of course Zhu Wenzhen, who is currently, I think, the world number one in women's chess. Now, the men's title was won by Magnus Carlsen of Norway, while the women's title was won by Anna Mujichuk, who is of Ukraine. She's from Ukraine. Okay. Now, what about the rest? Of course, if you would look at that, this Fabiana was number 2, and where is our Gukesh? Gukesh was number 3. Okay, the top 3 guys. While Anna was the number 1, Li Tingji of China was number 2. I'm talking of the the standings. So number 2, and 3 was Indian Humpy, Koneru Humpy, number 3. See, these are the top 3 guys, in the standings. To repeat, Magnus Carlsen of Norway won the men's title. He was followed by, in the second place, Fabiano Caruana of the United States. No, I think he's from, he's from the United States. Gukesh Domraju of India, number 3. And coming to the rest here, you have Anna Mujichuk, who took the title in the women's tournament. She was followed by Li Tingji in the second place, and of course in the third place was the Indian Koneru Humpy. Having had a look at all of these guys, and you should know this, that this is the first time that the current world champion Gukesh Domraju was facing Magnus Carlsen, and Gukesh defeated Carlsen, but of course Carlsen won the tournament. The India Pavilion, Christian Bharat Mandap, emerged as one of the 5 most admired pavilions at the ongoing World Expo 2025 in Osaka. Osaka is one of the biggest cities in Japan. In fact, the third biggest, the largest, as you would know, would be Tokyo, followed by Yokohama. This is Osaka, and it's a pretty big commercial center. You would find that it is home to offices, the head offices of a company like Panasonic. Have you heard of this company? I'm sure you have heard. Earlier there used to be something called Matsushita. There used to be something called National T, radio and all. So National Radio, Matsushita, in fact, let me tell you, Panasonic and National were brands owned by Matsushita Electric. Okay, but what Matsushita did was, it took the name of Panasonic as the company name. So now Matsushita has become Panasonic. Panasonic also owns National. Now, while this is one of the world's biggest consumer durables companies, it is also Osaka is also home to another company called Sharp, another electronic company, one of the pioneers of calculators, TVs and all that. This company Sharp is owned by a company called Honhai Precision. Let me write Precision here, Industry Limited. Okay, Honhai Precision, my friends, is a Taiwanese company, which, as you would know, popularly it's called Foxconn, which is the world's largest contract manufacturer of electronic devices. It makes all devices of Apple. Okay, it makes all devices of Apple. It's a manufacturer of gaming consoles like PlayStation, that's owned by Sony. So Sony PlayStation, Microsoft Xbox, then Nintendo's Wii. You must be, if you are familiar with gaming consoles, Wii is another one. So all of these are made by Foxconn. Foxconn owns Sharp now. Okay, I guess that's about it. There's hardly anything to discuss here. But those of you who are not greatly familiar with the places, Doha is the capital of Qatar. It's also, Qatar will host the 2030 Asian Games. 2030 Asian Games. What about Dubai, United Arab Emirates? It's home to it's a head office of the International Cricket Council. Lyon is the head office, is where you would find the head office of Interpol, International Criminal Police Organization. Okay. Of course, Paris is home to a lot of organizations, UNESCO being one of them. Okay. Name the space mission on which Indian astronaut Subhanshu Shukla and 3 others will travel to the International Space Station. Axiom 4 mission. Axiom 4 is a private space flight. This is a joint venture between a company called Axiom Space, okay, Axiom Space, NASA, which is the American Space Agency, plus SpaceX, which is Space Exploration Corporation, SpaceX. So, it is a joint venture between Axiom Space, NASA and SpaceX. Okay. This particular space mission will use the Falcon 9 rocket, which is a very large rocket, okay, Falcon 9, which is owned by SpaceX. Fair? Now, let me take you further. Axiom Space is headquartered in Houston, which, as you know, is in the American state of Texas. Okay. Why don't I tell you a little more about this? It is going to have 4 astronauts. Okay. Astro means star, not means sailor, a sailor among stars. The Russians would use cosmonaut. What is it? Cosmonaut. The Chinese use taikonaut, Taikonaut, Taikonaut. Now, there are going to be 4 guys. One, commander, the spacecraft's commander would be, commander in short, Peggy. Okay. Peggy Whitson, American. Okay, I'll write it here. In the end, I'll write US. Pilot would be Subhanshu Shukla. I'll write in short here, Subhanshu Shukla, India. 3, there will be 3 mission specialists, 2 mission specialists. One is Tibor Kapu of Hungary. I am trying to put everything in one line, so it becomes easier for you to remember also. Tibor Kapu and Slaznov. You may find an S here in some places, which is okay, don't worry. Okay, Wisniewski. This is the right spelling. It sounds weird. Yeah, he is from Poland. Okay, so 4 guys, my friends. These 2 will be the mission specialist. So, you got all the 4 names. So, this is a little about the Axiom. This mission is, they will go to, what is that? International Space Station. It was scheduled to be launched last month, but things are pretty bad. In fact, it was scheduled to be launched today. Today is 20th of June, but again it's been postponed to the nearest to near future. As of now, no new date has come in, but there have been some technical issues. So, all that you have to know about Axiom 4, it's here, my friends. Axiom 4 again, mission includes astronauts from which of the following countries visiting the International Space Station for the first time? India, Poland and Hungary. We mentioned Wisniewski from Poland and Kapu from Hungary. So, there you go, my friends. Yeah. Which Indian state has signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with NVIDIA, one of the world's largest chip companies? Highly advanced technology is what they use, my friends. NVIDIA has signed an MOU with some Indian state to establish India's first dedicated artificial intelligence university in Amaravati. Amaravati, as you know, is the capital of Andhra Pradesh. There you go. Okay. Just to give you some dope on NVIDIA, it's headquartered in a place called Santa Clara. But you should also know Santa Clara is in California, the American state of California, California in the west of the country. And Santa Clara is where you will also find the head office of Intel Corporation, yeah, and AMD. Intel Corporation is one of the world's largest chip companies. So is NVIDIA. So all the rivals are in one place. And its CEO is a guy called Jensen Huang. Jensen Huang. He is a co-founder and CEO. There you go, my friends. Okay. Which nation won the 2025 UEFA Nations League trophy? Nations League trophy, of course, UEFA, again, there is football club, football, what is called, club championship, that this is between nations. Union of European Football Associations is UEFA. Let me repeat, Union of European Football Associations is UEFA. Okay. It was won, it was played across Europe and it was won by Portugal. That was a winner. And if I'm not wrong, Spain was a runner-up. Spain was a runner-up. This was Portugal's second title. Yeah. Which are the top 3 football teams in the world? The top 3 ranked men's football teams, top 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to put dots. Unlike in the past, in some cases, when I was naming those astronauts on Axiom 4 mission, I put dots because there was a serial numbers. These are ranks, and when you rank something, you don't put a dot after the numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, the best ranked team in the world is Argentina. Okay, currently Argentina's men's football team is ranked number 1. Number 2 is, of course, what is it? I think is Spain. Yeah. Third is Portugal. Third is Portugal. Third is France. I have just looked at the screen and have copied it here. It's France. It is France. Okay. Yeah. Who claimed the 2025 French Open in the men and women female singles categories? French Open is one of the 4 Grand Slam tennis events. The calendar year has 4 Grand Slam events, the highest ranked tennis events. We have the Australian Open in January, then the French Open in May, June, especially May, and then we have this Wimbledon in June, July, and of course in the end in September sometime we have the Australian Open, the US Open. So the Australian Open followed by the French Open, Wimbledon, and of course, the US Open. So who won the men's singles title? Carlos Alcaraz. He belongs to Spain. He defeated Jannik Sinner of Italy. So Sinner, current world number one, he was defeated in a 5-hour, 40 minutes match, which is said to be the longest in the French Open final. So Sinner lost to Alcaraz, and the women's title was won by Coco Gauff of the United States. She defeated Aryna Sabalenka, who is the current world number 1, and she belongs to Belarus. So let me repeat. Men's winner, Alcaraz of Spain. Runner-up, Sinner of Italy. Women's singles title winner, Coco Gauff of the US, who defeated Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus in the final. So that's a bit about, the French Open singles titles. Iga Swiatek is a 3-time defending champion. In fact, before this, last 3 years she had won. Okay, but this time she lost in the semifinals to Aryna. Okay. According to the Commerce and Industry Ministry, and who heads it? Piyush Goyal. The Union Minister for Commerce and Industry is Piyush Goyal. According to the Commerce and Industry Ministry, India currently receiving inflows, FDI, foreign direct investment inflows from about 112 countries. Earlier it was 89 something, yeah, and now it is 112 countries. So our basket of investments has gone up, and the countries that are investing in India has gone up. But how much did we receive last year? Last year India received FDI of USD $81 billion. $81 billion. This is a total FDI that came into India last year. Okay, and the biggest investor of this was, it came from Singapore. About 30% of this came from Singapore, and I'll not rank the other two, but I'll just mention them. Number 2 was Mauritius. 3 was United States. In the third place, these are the top 3 investors in India: Singapore, Mauritius, and United States. Okay, and the highest investment went to the services sector. The services sector, which is the invisible sector, it received about 31%, 30 to 31%, but that's about the number. So a lot of this investment went into the services sector. Services is one of the 3 major sectors in an economy. We have the primary sector, agriculture and allied activities. When we say allied activities, we mean animal husbandry, plantation, horticulture, pisciculture, floriculture, all that stuff. Now coming to the secondary one, the second one is secondary sector or industry or manufacturing sector. The third one is services. Services is also called the tertiary sector. Ter is 3, so third sector. Remember one thing, the services sector is also called the invisible sector. It would have services like, trade, tourism, banking, legal services, education. This particular sector, we all belong to the tertiary sector. Okay. So, which state accounted for the highest share of, after the 81%, $81 billion, the highest went to Maharashtra. 39% went to Maharashtra, my friends. That's because, see, you need to look at a lot of the service companies would like to be in places which are more of financially, prudent, financially, there is a financial ecosystem. The Mumbai has that. So pretty close to that is a manufacturing base called Pune. So that particular thing brings in a lot of paisa for Maharashtra. Which public sector bank paid a dividend of 8,000 crore, a little over 8,000 crore to the central government for financial year 25? Remember, public sector banks are those in which the government of India holds a majority share. It need not be 51%, but it is a majority share. Usually it is a 51% benchmark, but let's put it, let's look at, for example, SBI. 57% of shares are owned by the government of India. 57% of shares of SBI are owned by the government of India. Now let me tell you, what is dividend? Dividend is distributed profit. Distributed profit. See, a company makes profit. Part of it, it decides to share with shareholders, people who have contributed capital. See, when you buy an asset, for example, you own this building, okay, you expect rent. When someone uses it, you expect rent. When you invest in the bank in an FD, you expect the bank to pay you interest. So basically, it's a return on investment. Similarly, when you buy shares in a company, you become a co-owner. You contribute to the capital, and by contributing to the capital, you become a co-owner. As you become a co-owner, you have a right to a share in the profits of the company. Okay, so when the company declares, okay, this much profit, of this we will declare 10% as dividend. Now 10% on what? On face value of a share. If the share's face value is 10%, so 10 rupees, so 10% of 10 rupees is 1 rupee. So for every 1 share, the shareholder will get 1 rupee. So if you hold 100 shares, you get 100 rupees. Okay, so the government of India got 8,000 crore for 57% of the shares, my friends. So, who runs, who are the owners of these banks? I think there are 12 public sector banks in India and 5 are listed here. Then you have the State Bank of India run by Challa Srinivasulu Setti. Challa, Challa, Challa Srinivasulu Setti. He is the chairperson. Canara Bank, one of India's biggest public sector banks. This is run by K. Satyanarayana Raju. K. Satyanarayana Raju. Union Bank of India, A. Mani Mekalai. Mani Mekalai. Bank of Baroda, Ashok Chandra. Ashok Chandra. Punjab National Bank. No, I think I made a mistake. Ashok Chandra runs Punjab National Bank. Punjab National Bank. Ashok Chandra. He's a new guy at Punjab National Bank. Bank of Baroda is run by Debadatta Chand. Debadatta Chand. I think the C confused me. Debadatta Chand is the CEO of Bank of Baroda. Okay, there we go, guys. Plenty of stuff to learn. With which international lending institution did AU Small Finance Bank partner to integrate climate risk considerations into its core banking framework? International Finance Corporation. This is a part of the World Bank Group. Part of the World Bank Group. Please know this. It's a part of the World Bank Group. Now, what are the choices here? And by the way, the International Finance Corporation is usually, it invests in private sector, advises the private sector and lends to private sector. Asian Development Bank is headed by Masato. It's always a Japanese. Masato Kanta or Kanto. In some places, you will find a D here, which is okay. Don't worry too much about it, okay? Masato Kanto of, what is that place? Japan, yes. In some places here also, you will find a D, which are, as I said, okay. Masado or Masato, Kando or Kato. This is something that we have never heard of. When I first saw this, actually, I was quite surprised and I read a bit about this. I went to the organization's website, the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. I went to the website, I looked up the website, what it does pretty much the same as the World Bank. That is, it funds infrastructure projects, development projects, anti-poverty, pro-education, pro-development projects, okay. So, it is headquartered, my friends, in the capital of Honduras, Tegucigalpa. Tegucigalpa. And this is the capital of Honduras. You have the Central American countries called Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Panama, Costa Rica, okay, and Guatemala. Those are the countries. Those are the only countries in Central America, okay. So, this is capital, Honduras is capital, Tegucigalpa. It's headed by Giselle Sanchez. Giselle Sanchez of Costa Rica, C-O-S-T-A, Costa Rica, R-I-C-A, Costa Rica, okay. The others basically we have been discussing quite often, so I will just skip the part now. Who are the latest inductees into the International Cricket Council Hall of Fame as announced on June 9th, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, all of them. Mahendra Singh Dhoni of India, Matthew Hayden of Australia, Daniel Vettori of New Zealand, and of course Hashim Amla of South Africa. All 4 of them have been inducted into the International Cricket Council Hall of Fame. This is headquartered in Dubai. ICC is headquartered in Dubai. It was started in 1909. Okay. It's headed by, the chairman is Jay Shah. Jay Shah. He is the son of Amit Shah, the Union Home Minister. And the ICC has 108 members. 108 members, of which 12 play test matches. Yeah. Recently, the United States and China agreed in principle to a framework for de-escalating trade tensions. The talks to de-escalate trade tensions were held in London. Now, they have been levying what we say tariffs, what I call taxes, on each of these goods, goods that they export to the other country. The thing is, the other country here means Chinese exports to the US, US exports to China. So they have been levying exports. They have been China is imposing taxes on American goods that come into their country, and the Americans are doing the same thing to the Chinese goods. So when Chinese goods come to America, and America imposes 100% tax, it means the tax, effectively the price doubles, more or less doubles. So what happens is that the goods become less competitive. Chinese goods become less competitive, okay, and they will lose market because they have become pricier. Consumers may not prefer them, and that would mean that they lose out on market share. They may lose out on revenue and everything. So that could drastically impact the Chinese trade in America, because see, the total trade between China and US is about $580 billion, which is about, and of which about $470 billion is Chinese exports to America. Yeah, America exports pretty little to China. Okay. Why don't I bring that? In the next class, I'll bring in two things. I'll bring in cash reserve ratio, okay, and I'll bring in the US China tariffs. I'll discuss the trade volume and everything in this case. Okay, I'll bring this in. Maybe the class after that, I'll bring in cash reserve ratio. Okay. Last week we discussed, but I guess it was a bit hurried of a discussion. Yeah, I get that. It was hurried, I guess. But anyway, I'll bring that back in. I am not very sure of the order at which I will take, though I mentioned that next week I will discuss US China. Maybe I'll bring back, I'll discuss cash reserve ratio first. Yeah, and the week after that, we will discuss China US trade tensions, because that's not going anywhere. Okay. So, where did Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar hold bilateral meetings with heads of election management bodies during his visit to the International IDEA Conference? It was held in Stockholm, Sweden. Stockholm is the capital of Sweden. Sweden is this country in Scandinavia. You have this Norway, Finland, together these three countries come in North Europe, and you will find that Sweden's capital is Stockholm, and there is something called Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome. In psychology, Stockholm Syndrome relates to a situation where the kidnappee, abductee, a person who has been kidnapped, the person who has been abducted, begins to sympathize with the cause of the kidnapper. So let's say I am kidnapped, okay, by you. Yeah, I am kidnapped. Now you have kidnapped me for some political reasons and everything. So somewhere I come to understand, I come to empathize with your cause, and I begin to believe in your cause. And then after I'm released, I have this entire setup that you were right. Why you kidnapped me and everything is right. The reasons were the right reasons, kind of thing. So that situation, psychological makeup, is Stockholm Syndrome, because it happened first with the victim in Stockholm. Okay. Now, what would you find in these places? Paris, you would find UNESCO. Vienna is the capital of Austria, and Vienna is home to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Atomic Energy Agency is a UN body whose primary task is to ensure that member countries don't build nuclear weapons. I mean, except for the P5, the permanent 5 members of the UN Security Council, other countries should not build nuclear weapons. They can access nuclear technology for civil purposes, that is to generate electricity, but beyond that, no. So that's the job of the International Atomic Energy Agency, headquartered in Vienna, Austria. New York is home to, of course, the United Nations and a lot of other organizations. We'll stick to the United Nations. Geneva, International Labour Organization, World Health Organization are all headquartered in Geneva. The International Day for Dialogue Among Civilizations is June 10th. See, there was this years back, I read a book, The Clash of Civilizations. The Clash of Civilizations, written by Samuel Huntington. In that book, he mentioned that future wars will not be, they will not be economic or ideological, they will be more of civilizational, for civilizational values. So, there is this entire thing today happening between the Islamic values and the Western values. The future wars will be Islamic values. That is what he mentions in this book. I think it came out in 1997, 99 basically. And he also talks about how the future wars would be scenic, SINIC, which is China, okay. Chinese values versus freedom values like we have in India and all that. So, brilliant book, brilliant book, okay. You should read it. It is called The Clash of Civilizations, okay. Now, to look at these choices here, look at this June 12th, World Day Against Child Labour, World Day Against Child Labour. June 5th is World Environment Day. What is the theme of World Day Against Child Labour? You know, we just mentioned it a while ago, yeah, June 12th, I guess, and you will see this basically. Progress is clear, but there is more to do. Let's speed up efforts. Of course, see, the pandemic had created a new category of child labor. In fact, a lot of families were squeezed into debt, and to come out of debt, they had to use their, that's the language, okay. They had to use their children as financial assets to work somewhere. So, instead of going to school at such a tender age, these kids are now being forced to work, engage in, hazardous, mostly dangerous work to be able to support their, their family, their parents, to come out of poverty and any kind of debt, basically indebtedness, okay. The 8th edition of the Joint Military Exercise Shakti 2025 between India and France will be held at La Cavalier in France. You see this Pune, Auli is in Uttarakhand, Umroi is in Meghalaya. All these places have hosted the military exercises between India and France. Okay, there is barely anything else to discuss here. As per the ILO stat, what percentage of India's population is covered under social security schemes in 2025? Social security schemes like, free food, basically, or food at subsidized rates, so no one goes hungry. Then we have insurance, basically, health cover, like you have Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Scheme, Yojana and all. So, in India, more than 64% of people are covered under this. So, that means, about 2/3. So, what about the other 1/3? So, we need to ensure that everyone's covered under this. The poorest, the poor need to be taken care of. That is how development would, bear fruits, my friends. Otherwise, it's like, only the rich, only those who are advantaged can access resources, especially resources that would, that define a basic quality of life, okay. I told you about ILO. It's headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. International Labour Organization was started in 1919. And ladies and gentlemen, it's the oldest UN body as of today, the oldest UN body. Okay, and it is it's headed by a man called Gilbert Hungbo. He belongs to this small African country called Togo. He belongs to Togo. If you look at Africa like this, yeah, Togo is this. This is the line. That's it. That's Togo. Okay, TOGO. So, from there we could go to this next one. The World Economic Forum has, the Global World Bank has come up with the global economic prospects, and it says that India's economy is likely to grow at 6.3% this financial year, the coming financial year, the current financial year. Again, as I said, I always say this, when you see this, percentages, conjecture, these are all guesses based on current situation. But this came before the war in West Asia had broken out between Israel and Iran. The war between Israel and Iran is ongoing, and Israel is, Iran is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz. Where is the Strait of Hormuz? Let me draw a bit here. This is the Strait of Hormuz. A strait is a narrow channel of water that separates two land bodies. But in India and Sri Lanka, here, yeah, there is Sri Lanka, So, this narrow channel of water is called Pak Straits. Similarly, this narrow strait here, narrow channel of water between the Iran and this is the Gulf, Persian Gulf. You have this country called United Arab Emirates. You have Oman here, yeah. Because see, when you look at this particular, let me draw it in large. Okay, like this. This is United Arab Emirates, UAE. But this portion is Oman. This is Oman. This portion is also Oman. Okay. So, there is Oman and there is UAE here. Nearly 28% of the world's oil passes through this. There is Qatar here. There is Bahrain. There is Kuwait. There is Iraq. There is Iran and of course, Saudi Arabia. 28% of the world's oil and gas pass through this. And this is a very narrow channel. At its narrowest point, it is 48 kilometers wide. 48 kilometers. So, if Iran tomorrow closes this, blockades this, it would lead to a disruption in supply. And supply disruption happens would mean that, any supply disruption would spike the prices, and that would, oil prices go up, that would have a cascading impact on prices of essential commodities. Inflation would go up. So, that is a major worry, my friends, major worry. What is the primary objective of the variable repo rate auction conducted by the Reserve Bank of India? So, just look at repo rate, repo rate. It should be variable rate repo or variable, what is fixed here? Fixed repo rate, fixed rate repo or fixed repo rate. What does it mean? See, repo rate is a rate of interest charged by the RBI on short-term loans to commercial banks. When commercial banks need paisa, they go to the RBI and ask for paisa. RBI says, pay interest on this. You take this loan, but you will have to pay interest. The current repo rate is 5.5%, which means for every loan that a commercial bank takes from the RBI, it has to pay 5.5% interest. But sometimes market rates could be lower than this. The other banks, some banks may say that, look, RBI, we want money from you, but we can't pay 55.5%, but we need it not. See, when banks borrow, they are usually for short term, and short term is anything less than a year. Okay, but some banks say we want it not for a year, we want it for a maximum of 14 days. Bank RBI says, okay, in that case, you don't want to pay 5.5%, no problem. Do one thing. You put in a bid, how much you want and what rate of interest would you are willing to pay. Okay, so another one bank says, okay, we will pay 4%. Another bank says we will pay 4.25%. Okay. Third bank says we are willing to pay 4.4%. Now, what RBI does is it auctions the loans. Okay. Whoever bids the highest interest rate, because it's favorable to the RBI, takes that. Okay, takes the loan. So, now look at this. It is lower than that. This is only for loans that are between 1 to 14 days. 1 to 14 days. Okay? Yeah. Nothing more than this. It is basically a variable thing for a minimum period of 1 day, for a maximum period of 14 days basically. Okay? So, it is like the market condition. If someone wants it, what is the highest interest you will pay? See this. Normally, this will become the variable, rate. So, these banks won't get the loan. This bank will get the loan. That's how it is, my friends. If they also want the loan, they will have to pay 4.4%. Nothing more than that. Brazil and Ecuador have secured qualification for the FIFA World Cup 2026. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will be held in 3 countries. That will be 100 years, my friends. It will be, held in, it will be held in 3 countries: United States, Canada and Mexico, or say Canada, United States, Mexico. That's a better way of remembering. So North America, okay, the 3 largest countries in North America will host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The 2030 FIFA World Cup, which is the centenary World Cup, okay, will be held by these 3 countries: Spain, Portugal, Morocco. Okay, but tournament means centenary celebrations will also centenary matches will also be held in 3 countries: Uruguay, so Paraguay and Argentina. In these 3 countries, centenary matches of 2030 World Cup will be held. Otherwise, the actual host would be Spain, Portugal and Morocco. Okay. Which country has topped the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2025? So, the Global Gender Gap Report is based on 4 parameters: economic participation and opportunity. What's the opportunity that women have? And of course, what are the wages, to what level they can go. So, the glass ceiling and everything is discussed. Educational attainment, primary education, higher education, university education, all that stuff. And political empowerment, what opportunities are there, what are the maximum roles, what are the roles they get, and of course, health and survival. Maternal mortality rate, access to maternal care, maternal leave, maternity leave, all of these things matter, my friends. So, on these 4 parameters, evaluation is made of 148 countries, and the highest rank was Iceland, 1. Number 2, Finland. Number 3, Norway. Number 4, New Zealand. Number 5, United Kingdom. These are top 5 ranked countries. India's rank 131. India 131. Okay. Our country 131. Pakistan came in 148, which is last. Okay. Let's go past this. Which state has undertaken a project to develop India's first electronic waste eco park in Hollambi Kalan? Eco waste is basically electronic waste, basically. Computers, gadgets, phones, all kinds of things, my friends. And we are accumulating mountains and mountains of them. So, there are thousands of tons of eco waste that we are generating every year. So, one of those things that India has developed is this particular eco waste park, in Delhi. Okay. So, this will collect, then recycle, and of course, reuse kind of, they reuse what's the output basically. Which Indian lyricist has honored with the Dostoevsky? Fyodor Dostoevsky was this great Russian writer. When I read this question just a little before we started this discussion, I was very happy, because Dostoevsky is a person you should all read. You should read his books like Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment, a fabulous book it is. Crime and Punishment. Then there is his book called The Brothers Karamazov. Don't worry too much about it, but this is a book you should read, Crime and Punishment. So, Fyodor Dostoevsky, I think he lived between 1821 and 1881. He was around for about 60 years. He passed away. Yeah, after, I think there's something wrong with his health, and he had a triple brain hemorrhage and he passed away from that. Now, this Dostoevsky award has been given to Javed Akhtar. Basically, Javed Akhtar is a lyricist, story writer, and of course, as you say, script writer and all. He primarily believes he's a humanist. He says that we are all different in different ways, but we could be one in every possible way. we could all come together. And the idea behind this is that, my friends, in fact, you should know that he is an atheist. He is an atheist. He declared himself to be an atheist. Okay, and there is a story about his father was an atheist. Okay, very famous communist. Communists, by definition, are atheists. Please know this. By definition, a communist is an atheist. So there is a story that when he was born, his father was, asked by his friends, "Hey, you are an atheist. Now what would you whisper into his ears?" Because see, it is believed that when Muslim children are born, when a new baby comes into a Muslim household, a particular azan is read whispered into the ears of the baby. Okay, the word of God, basically. Now he said that, look, you're an atheist, so what are you going to do? Yeah, and Javed Akhtar's father, a very famous communist, what he did was, he held the Communist Manifesto, the Bible of Communism by Karl Marx. He held it and he opened it. The very first page has a quotation by Marx. It says, and this is what he whispered into the ears of Javed Akhtar. Okay, he said, "Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains." That is, no longer be a slave, be your own person. That's what he meant. So, of course, this is a story related by Javed Akhtar himself. Oh, that's all from me, Bharat Jain. Have a lot of fun. Stay curious.